Hello everybody, I hope you're all well. In May of this year, British online retailer giant, sorry that's a mouthful, British online retailer giant ASOS's stocks dropped by £291 million and their entire company nearly collapsed. Somehow the company is still hanging on by a thread, but I think a lot of people are sort of sat back waiting for the company to collapse. And the reason why I find this so interesting is that ASOS was hugely popular in the sort of late 2000s to the early 2010s. You would see those signature black and white packages on nearly everyone's doorstep. I saw one in my hallway at least once a week, thanks to my mum. It was the go-to online clothing retailer for everyday outfits, work outfits, clubbing outfits, gym wear, leisure wear, the list goes on. ASOS had absolutely everything. ASOS was a real pioneer in the online retail marketplace. So it counts as it's not a huge shock, but it's pretty surprising that they were such big pioneers and they have just crashed and burned so hard, especially during what many people see as a boom in fast fashion and a boom in social media and influencer marketing. Why has ASOS failed? And it's not just ASOS. A few months into the coronavirus pandemic, British clothing retailer giant, I'm loving using that word today, Topshop announced that it would not be reopening its doors. Topshop actually ended up getting acquired by ASOS and is now only sold online. And more recently, Boohoo Group, which owns Boohoo, Pretty Little Thing, Nasty Gal, reported a 70% drop in their shares in 2022. And both ASOS and Boohoo Group's shares have been on the decline for the last 2 years. And even fast fashion giant Shein, which we all say is swallowing up the competition, was valued billions below its £100 billion $100 billion peak. And as someone who I talk quite a lot about fast fashion on my channel, I feel like, sorry if you guys find it boring, I find it interesting. I find it all extremely interesting. Why are fast fashion companies failing? Are the British public becoming more ethics conscious? Is it the cost of living crisis making people tighten their belts? Is it bad marketing, bad PR? And something which I'm going to talk about on the second half of this video is what are these companies trying to do in order to save their tarnished reputations and save their companies. And a lot of the time it's greenwashing. Boo! And just before we get into today's video, I would love to thank today's sponsor, Intimina. I feel like I have not said that in such a long time. If you're a long time viewer of the channel, you know I've been working with Intimina for years. I have worked with Intimina so many times on this channel, and the reason why I continue to work with them is not only do I actually really like their products, but I also really love and respect Intimina as a brand. If you hadn't heard of Intimina before, they specialize in a range of period and period care products. And the thing that I love most about Intimina, and the reason why I continue to work with them years down the line, is because of their completely shame-free, no-nonsense approach to periods and period care. Despite the fact that billions of people around the world experience having a period, periods are not only treated with shame and as something we should hide, and they are also actively treated with disdain, with ridicule by peers, even by popular media. Not only do I find Intimina's shame-free approach to periods to be really, really refreshing, but it also helps break down the stigma around periods, because period stigma leads to an increase in period poverty because so many people are not willing to talk about their period and periods in general. I have been using Intimina's period cups for years. The one that I use the most is the Lily Cup Compact, but we're not going to be talking about that today. Today we are going to be talking about their original period cups, which are the Lily Cups. Oh my god, they match my outfit. Slay. So basically how the Intimina Lily Cup works is you basically just roll it up like a tampon and you insert it. It's as simple as that. The Lily Cup has a no-spill rim, so you don't have to worry about leakage. It also offers up to 8 hours of protection and has a little removal stem on the other end for easy removal. Don't worry, it doesn't get stuck. I was worried about that at first, but it doesn't. The Intimina Lily Cup is made with 100% medical grade silicone and also works really well for people with higher cervixes. The Lily Cup comes in 2 different sizes. The size A, which is better for people who have a lighter flow. And then there is the size B, which is better for people who have a medium flow. Not only are the Lily cups really good for the environment because it minimizes your period waste, but something which I find a problem with using period products is I find that the scent that they put in pads and tampons gives me a really bad headache. I need to know if anyone else has this problem, because whenever I tell people about it, they're like, right. And I'm like, no, please, I swear, I'm not lying. But I find that the really strong scents that they put in tampons and pads give me a really bad headache, and I don't get a headache when I use one of the Intimina Lily cups. They've currently got some amazing deals on for Black Friday. They're offering gifts with purchases with all of their products. So make sure you guys click my link in the description, and thank you so much again, Intimina, for sponsoring today's video. In today's video, we are going to be talking about fast fashion. Now, I'm not going to be getting into the nitty gritty as to why fast fashion is so horrendously awful for people, for the environment, because I've actually spoken about that before on my channel. On this video here, where I talk about the aftermath of TikTok fashion, I speak a lot more about the details of why fast fashion is so bad, and I don't want to repeat myself. So if you want to go and watch that video afterwards, I recommend it. If you are new here, I am very passionate about sustainable fashion and small businesses. I haven't bought any fast fashion. I think it's coming up on a year now, other than underwear and socks. And even before that year, I was only buying like the occasional pair of jeans from somewhere, the occasional white t-shirt. Now I don't get anything at all. And again, I'm going to put a disclaimer in. I've already put this disclaimer in multiple videos about fast fashion before, but when I'm critiquing people who buy fast fashion, which I'm not even really doing in this video, when I critique people who buy fast fashion, I'm very often talking about the over-consumers of fast fashion. The people who over-consume fast fashion are not the working class. They're most likely not plus-size people who can't find clothing in their size secondhand or from small and sustainable businesses. This video isn't to shame anyone who buys fast fashion. It's just, I mean, this video mainly is about greenwashing tactics and fast fashion PR and why some fast fashion companies fail. But I know that some people can get a little bit upset about it, and this isn't meant to be a direct attack on anyone. And again, I talk about it in my TikTok fashion video, but the people that really need to be critiqued when it comes to fast fashion is the overconsumers and the influencers who continue to promote slave labor. I think two really interesting case studies for failing and failed fast fashion brands are ASOS and Topshop. If you haven't heard of ASOS before, they're basically like an online retail marketplace. They are a British online clothing retailer. They were founded in 2000, and the initial use of the website was for people to find similar outfits to what they saw on TV and movies. ASOS actually stands for As Seen on Screen. You learn something new every day. And ASOS's target audience was young people, specifically young women, so teenagers to young adults. And ASOS was a huge success, and I think a big reason for their success was the fact that they really were a pioneer during the early 2000s and the early 2010s as a solely online retailer only. They also offered free returns, which was really, really rare at the time. And they had instant success. And now they sell over 850 brands, including their own brands. They ship to over 196 countries. And again, something which is important to note, and something which I think contributed to a lot of ASOS's success, is the fact that ASOS had next to nearly no competition during their peak popularity, which is why I think they had such quick success, but then also such a quick fall from grace at the same time. If you've never used the ASOS website before, it basically works as an online marketplace, home to hundreds of brands. So if you search up black dress on ASOS, it will spit back over 6,000 different results, and then you yourself will filter it out. So they have filters based on size, color, sleeve length, the way the dress fits, price order, whether it's on sale or not, what brand it is. So shopping on ASOS is definitely the online shopping experience where you have to put the work in. And look, 10, 20 years ago, that was the norm. Now that's just a hindrance. And I think this is a key factor as to why ASOS fell so out of touch with the British public and why they're in their flop era. It's because nowadays with influencer marketing and social media, a lot of the clothes that we buy are served to us on a silver platter, whether it's from our favorite influencer tagging it on their Instagram, whether it's from an ad on TikTok, or whether it's someone directly linking something that they're wearing sharing on TikTok Shop. Clothes are served to us rather than us seeking out clothing. And again, I'm just riffing here, but I do feel like the days of browsing clothing websites are slightly behind us, or rather the days of browsing websites like ASOS where you have to put a lot of the work in and often you don't get a result are behind us. This is going off script, by the way, but a few years ago when I used to attempt to shop on ASOS, not only is it an overstimulating, jarring experience, but also every single time without fail, if I scrolled through 100 different items and I found one thing I liked, it was always out of stock in my size. Always. But if we go back onto script here, if we think about ASOS's biggest competition, Shein, not only does Shein gamify the shopping experience by having multiple discount codes to be won, sales to really sort of like hunt out and achieve something from, but also, I mean, to be fair, I haven't been on the Shein website in years. I just read this on a website, but apparently a lot of the Shein filtering is like through pictures and stuff. So it's a lot more of a visually stimulating and pleasing experience. It probably pumps a lot more endorphins into your brain using Shein. And look, website filtering systems aside, ASOS just cannot compete with Shein on price. ASOS is fast fashion, but Shein is ultra fast fashion. Whenever I think about this fact, I actually just can't even believe it's true that Shein adds over 9,000 different styles to their website every single day. The way that the Shein manufacturing works is they add so many styles and they predict trends using an algorithm. And then they produce very small batches of these styles. And whichever clothing is popular, they continue to produce more batches. And then whichever clothing pieces are unpopular, they will discontinue. And the cycle goes on and on and on. The production time on Shein clothing is, I believe it takes around 2 to 3 weeks for something to go from concept to physical product, which is an insanely fast turnaround. In the past, I'm pretty sure clothing companies prepare their autumn winter collections 6 months to a year before they come out. Shein's business plan is just to throw everything at a wall and see what sticks. And unfortunately it works because they produce clothing at such an insanely cheap rate. I'm not sure whether I've said this on my channel before, but I remember one of the moments which began to sort of radicalize me against fast fashion was, I'm pretty sure it was Kylie Jenner's 21st birthday party. All the pictures from her birthday party went viral. She's going viral. And the next day, Fashion Nova began selling dupes for all of their dresses. Like, that was when I was like, okay, this isn't right. This can't be right. And it shouldn't be normal either. This isn't normal. I mean, maybe this is a controversial opinion, but I do think that you don't have to own absolutely everything. Like, you don't have to own every bit of clothing that you like the look of. I'm pretty sure someone has mentioned this in a video before because I absolutely did not get this like on my own. But do you remember when everyone was buying the dupe for the 13 going on 30 dress? Do you actually need it though? Do you actually need it? Sometimes things belong on a screen and that's okay. Now, even though I have no evidence of this is just a theory, but I love sharing my theories with you guys and I'd love to know what you guys think about this. I do think now that fast fashion has entered the public conscious a little bit more, I do think that people who continue to shop fast fashion are going to favor cheaper and easier to use websites like Boohoo, Pretty Little Thing, Shein, and then other shoppers from Shein have become more conscious about fast fashion and have decided to stop secondhand and small and sustainable businesses. And then that sort of middle ground of fast fashion, so there's the ultra fast fashion, which is Boohoo, Shein, Pretty Little Thing. And then the sort of middle ground fast fashion, which I would describe as Zara, Urban Outfitters, Motel. And I do think that ASOS fits in as a middle ground fast fashion brand as well. But I do think that people who do like to shop from middle ground fast fashion brands would rather have an easier shopping experience and shop on a website with less products and also with better brand identity. Brands like Zara and Urban Outfitters and Motel, they do have very good brand identity and they have a fairly cohesive-ish aesthetic and they have less products on their website. And I don't think it's a coincidence that they are maybe successful. I don't know. I didn't look into their business practices or their profits this year, but I do think that there is a reason why these middle ground fast fashion brands are staying on top. And I do think it's got to do with influencer marketing. Guys, I don't think that some people who aren't influencers, oh my God, gross, call myself an influencer, realize the power of influencer marketing. A lot of influencers will work with fast fashion brands that are really overpriced and the quality of their clothing isn't very good, motel, but they will continue to work with them and they will not speak up if the clothing isn't good quality because they want to continue to be sent free things, they want brand deals with them, and they want to continue to be invited to events, influencer trips, things like that. It's pretty crazy. And I read on Lucy Moon's Substack about like the downfall of ASOS, that a lot of the common complaints of ex-ASOS shoppers is the fact that the quality has declined a lot. This could be a supply chain issue post-Brexit, post-Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But again, I'm just theorizing. I think maybe a reduction in quality comes down to trying to keep up with Shein, which first of all, ASOS trying to keep up with Shein, it's just not possible. It's just not possible, babes. But maybe ASOS is trying to compete with Shein in the sense where they are trying to stay as on top of the trends as they can and have a faster turnaround rate, and that leads to a reduction in quality. Shein can easily do this via small batch orders and an algorithm. ASOS, not so much. And not only is this impossible for ASOS to keep up with these production levels, but also a reduction in quality will isolate ASOS's current customer base. Also, another important thing to note is the cost of living crisis and the energy bills crisis. Cost of living crisis has made a lot of people tighten their belts. People are spending less money on clothes. People are returning a lot more clothes than they used to, especially because there was such a big fast fashion boom during the beginning of the pandemic and lockdown. The profits were inevitably going to drop. All fast fashion retailers' profits were inevitably going to drop when people started going back to work and physical stores began reopening. And the cost of living crisis only further made their profits drop because people are just shopping a lot less. People will either resort to cheaper fast fashion brands or they just won't shop at all. Also, online retailers have pretty expensive overheads. Despite fast fashion retailers saving a lot of money by using extremely cheap labor, often but not exclusive to the global south, but also the cost of running a warehouse coinciding with a spike in energy bills would absolutely impact profits and have a sting when it comes to ASOS and other fast fashion brands. The failure of Topshop, on the other hand, if you had told me back in 2012, when I used to go to that Topshop in Oxford Circus at least once a month, when I used to scour the Topshop website, saving every bit of birthday money I had for that iconic green khaki coat, or I used to wear Joni jeans literally every single day. I used to go on a shopping spree to the Topshop in Brake Cross. I used to want to work at Topshop. Or you know what? Even Topshop makeup was good. Does anyone remember how iconic Topshop makeup was? The amount of girls that were swayed into buying Brighton Rock lipstick because of Zoella, it's got to be in the thousands, surely. Topshop was a staple in British culture. It goes beans on toast,
smash.
Tom Hardy,
Smash.
Topshop. But if I'm being honest, when Topshop announced it wouldn't be reopening its doors, it didn't come as a huge shock to me at all. Topshop had been a little bit like out of the loop with the trends, and it hadn't been the same that it was in like its peak of like the early 2010s. I actually used to work in Oxford Circus, and Topshop was the go-to if you needed a last minute night out outfit. But I remember towards the end, it was really difficult to find something nice in like the 5 floors that was the Topshop Oxford Circus. And also that Topshop was a sensory nightmare. The DJ used to be blasting music. It was always packed, obviously, because it was like a tourist hotspot, understandably so. Yeah. It was crazy. I honestly think that Topshop lost a lot of its competition to fast fashion brands that had a quicker trend response and turnaround time, similarly to ASOS, you know, brands like Pretty Little Thing and Fashion Nova. And also Topshop actually didn't invest a lot of money into its online operations. Topshop used to rely a lot on people visiting the physical stores and going shopping in physical stores, which, as we all know, going to physical stores has actually fallen quite out of trend with Gen Z. And obviously online shopping had a huge spike during the pandemic. Also, Arcadia Group, which owns Topshop, were hit with rising costs. And guys, I can't quite believe this, but the increase in minimum wage, I know it must be so hard to have to pay customer service workers more money. Someone think of the tax evading billionaires. And speaking of Philip Green acquired Topshop in 2002. And look, one thing about the British people and the British public, They hate Philip Green. Philip Green has been accused of sexism, racism, sexual misconduct, and assault. He has been accused of evading tax. He plummeted the country into a pension crisis. Basically, Philip Green used to own a chain of British department stores called BHS, and he sold BHS for £1. That's right, one singular £1. And it plummeted the government into a pension crisis, and the government had to fork out over £200 million to pay BHS workers their pensions. And Philip Green eventually agreed to pay 300 million towards it, only because the government threatened to take his knighthood away. It was just a couple of months into the first lockdown that it was announced that Topshop would not be reopening its doors, and it actually got acquired by ASOS. And I decided to have a little peruse, see what they're selling, and I'm not gonna lie, their stuff actually looks pretty nice, but I think, it's not a good sign that a failing fast fashion brand is being sold on a failing website. Oh, and I did forget to say, I do think that Philip Green's reputation did slightly impact Topshop sales, because people really do hate Philip Green so much. But circling back to bad PR, the next fast fashion brand I honestly think takes the cake when it comes to bad PR, and that is Boohoo and Boohoo Group. Again, as I said earlier, Boohoo Group owns brands like Pretty Little Thing, Boohoo, Boohoo Man, Nasty Gal, among others. And I don't think I have ever seen a positive headline about Boohoo. Rightly so. Boohoo was founded by Mahmoud Kamani and Carol Kane and is worth more than Marks and Spencer's and ASOS combined. And during that first lockdown period, March and May 2020, Boohoo's sales increased by 45% to £367.8 million. Boohoo fits into the ultra fast fashion category. They upload new styles onto their website every single day. I'm sure that they have an extremely fast turnaround from idea to physical product, and all of their products are very cheap. You can buy a top for a £5, jeans for 20 quid, you can buy dresses for a tenner. There are over 10,000 dresses on the Boohoo website. But what separates Boohoo from its biggest competitor, which is Shein, is not only does somehow Shein produce even more clothing than Boohoo, but a majority of Boohoo's factories are actually based in the UK. The reason for this is so they can have a really, really quick turnaround time when it comes to trends, and they can also offer next day delivery. And I think it was the first really big scandal that Boohoo was involved in was that an undercover investigation revealed that the Boohoo factory workers in Leicester were being paid £3.50 an hour. At the time, I believe the British minimum wage was around £8 an hour. And not only that, but the garment workers were not being protected properly from COVID. And something which I actually did not know before researching this video is that Leicester, which is a city in the north of England, is a really big hub for garment factories. I read an article which says that it's often referred to as a country within a country because it has its own rules. It's very often that labour laws get violated in these factories in Leicester. And I think something which made the Boohoo scandal worse was that at the time that this came out in the UK, different areas were being put under lockdown from COVID outbreaks, and Leicester was the first ever area to be locked down because of COVID outbreaks. And a lot of people do believe it is because of the factories not implementing social distancing, not implementing correct protection for their workers and their employees. Perhaps the strangest thing about this labour exploitation is that it is an open secret. Central government knows, local government knows, retailers know. When I came to the UK and I discovered what was going on in Leicester, it was mind-blowing, says Anders Christiansen, who was chief executive of high street retailer New Look from 2013 until September last year. This is happening in front of your eyes and nobody's doing anything, he remembers thinking. How can society accept it? Not even society. How can government accept it? It's so sad. I've not spoken about it for a long time because it frustrated me so much. The revelations about the Boohoo factories in Leicester were all over UK press. Newspapers were outraged. The British public was outraged. The government and politicians were outraged. I mean, it does beg the question, where do you think your £5 tops are coming from? Or do we only care about labor exploitation when it's occurring in this country and not the global south? It was a scandal, don't get me wrong, but there was still plenty of people who did not care, hence why boohoo is still in business. And boohoo released multiple statements saying that this would never happen again. They were implementing changes to ensure fair wages. And again, begs the question, where do you think your £5 tops are coming from? Like, I don't know whether I can say this because I don't want to get sued, but it wouldn't surprise me if they knew what was going on, because again, where the hell are your £5 tops coming from? And I think the reason why boohoo decided to release a statement about this and are still to this day trying to save their own asses is because this scandal made boohoo's stocks completely plummet. And as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, boohoo's stocks have been on the decline for the past 2 years. And I think something, and again, I'm just theorizing, that made the boohoo factory scandal hit a little bit harder than, let's say, the Shein factory scandal from the Channel 4 expose documentary is, first of all, these factories are in the UK, but also boohoo has a lot more cultural presence in the UK than Shein, and just more presence in general. Even though Shein does a lot of influencer marketing, boohoo increases that by a tenfold. Boohoo does a ton of influencer marketing, gifting, sponsored posts, but also boohoo sponsor TV shows. Every year when Love Island alumni come out, Pretty Little Thing gives a deal to one of the contestants or multiple of the contestants worth hundreds of thousands of pounds. They do ambassadorships. Molly May, who was a runner-up in I think it was the 5th season of Love Island, used to be the creative director of Pretty Little Thing. Boohoo recently collaborated with Kourtney Kardashian. Boohoo regularly holds events for influencers. They even did their own event for London Fashion Week. In my opinion, Boohoo are far more present than Shein. And also boohoo is a public company. You can own shares in boohoo. So bad press impacts stock and it doesn't make shareholders very happy. Shein is a private company, but that doesn't mean that Shein aren't trying to salvage and save their own tarnished reputation. We're going to talk more about that in a moment. But I do think that boohoo having such a large presence, especially in the UK, becomes a problem because there are now faces, multiple faces, to hold boohoo accountable to. I remember Molly May got a ton of criticism after the factory scandal. You can hold Kourtney Kardashian accountable for whatever scandal boohoo decide to get themselves into next. You can hold the many Love Island alumni who accept hundreds of thousands of pounds ambassadorship deals from boohoo. Even during the show in London Fashion Week, hundreds of people gathered to protest against the show. Deservedly so, rightly so, which again is even more bad press. And again, I feel like I'm saying I'm theorizing a lot in this video, but I'm theorizing, I'm thinking, someone stop her. But I do think that boohoo's piss poor reputation maybe has an impact on influencer marketing. I think a lot more influencers are starting to think of their influencing jobs and journeys as a career. And one of the most important things about a career is longevity and reputation. And I think a lot of people don't want to tarnish their own reputation by working with brands that are owned by Boohoo Group. Now, a very controversial tool that both Boohoo, Pretty Little Thing, and Shein are using to try and clean up their reputation is greenwashing. If you hadn't heard of greenwashing before, it's defined on Wikipedia as greenwashing, also called green sheen, is a form of advertising or marketing spin in which green PR and green marketing are deceptively used to persuade the public that an organization's products, aims, and policies are environmentally friendly. So if you've been living under a rock for the past 5 years, I do think that conversations about fast fashion and sustainability are entering, the forefront of people's minds a lot. People want to know where their clothes are coming from, who made them, what they're made of. And I do think that these conversations are probably impacting fast fashion sales. What is particularly insidious about greenwashing, and I'm not sure if this still applies now actually, but at least a couple of years ago, there were no government regulations on what sustainability actually was. So a company like H&M, which produces thousands of clothes literally made of plastic, have garment workers probably working in very dangerous conditions for very little pay. They can release a sustainable t-shirt collection and they can put in big letters sustainable in green because it contains like 20% bamboo. I read an article on Vogue titled "Fashion is Still Trying to Greenwash Away Its Problems" by Emily Chan, where this article is in response to Kourtney Kardashian's sustainable collection with Boohoo.
Boohoo came to me with this idea, the fact that it was all about sustainability.
laugh out loud.
This altered my brain chemistry. And this was yet another bad press notch on Boohoo's belt because this collection got a lot of backlash, and again, deservedly so. So not only do I think that Boohoo get bad press because they have such poor working conditions and they have a lot of faces to sort of be held accountable for the brand, and they're so, again, culturally present in the UK at least. I do think whenever a fast fashion brand utters the word sustainable, it is just asking for it. It's just asking for it. You're going to get a ton of backlash for it. Again, deservedly so. And I also think having such a huge name attached to it, Kourtney Kardashian, was only going to make it worse. I think already if Boohoo released a sustainable collection, it would have gotten backlash. But because it had one of the Kardashians attached to it, it just made it so much worse. I had no idea why no one on the Boohoo marketing team even considered that this would be a disaster. Kourtney Kardashian, in collaboration with Boohoo, released two, I think it was last year, capsule collections, including pieces made from recycled fibers. There was 2 vintage biker jackets, and this collection was also available to hire on an app called Hire Street to increase the life cycle of the clothing. Oh no, sorry, extend the life cycle of the clothing. I mean, I feel like I shouldn't have to explain this, but for Boohoo that have gotten into multiple scandals about paying their factory workers below minimum wage, £3.50 an hour, also having their factory workers work in very dangerous working conditions during the pandemic and probably still today, regardless of what fucking fibers you put in there, if this is the conditions in which you made these garments in, bear in mind the cheapest piece of clothing in the collection was £5, then nothing about it is fucking sustainable. Also, just because you decide to make a small little 42-piece collection, which is not small by the way, there are still over 40,000 different products on the Boohoo website. A Boohoo spokesperson responded to the greenwashing allegations. They said, "We are not making any claims. In fact, we're stating that we don't have all the answers. Who does? We are shining a light on some serious and difficult issues. We want customers to have clear, honest, and straightforward information to help them make informed choices, which is why we're willingly collaborating with them to better understand their expectations." I'm so obsessed. That's giving politician, like me when I say absolutely nothing. And just to think how much money they must have paid Kourtney Kardashian for this collection whilst they pay their garment workers pennies. Like, it's blood money. It's absolute blood money. And all the while trying to take a slice out of the sustainability pie. I think this collection was equal parts trying to salvage their reputation and also equal parts trying to profit off of conversations about sustainability. And as I mentioned earlier, wait, did I mention this earlier? I don't think I did. Pretty Little Thing actually launched an app last year called PLT Marketplace, where people can sell clothes secondhand. Doesn't have to be from Pretty Little Thing. It basically sort of works as like a Depop or a Vinted. All the while, Pretty Little Thing on Black Friday was selling clothes for a literal penny. A penny. Some, last Black Friday, for free. They were selling clothes for free. And of course, Shein. Can we forget the Shein influencer trip to the factory? I can't. But other than that, Shein recently released a sustainability report. Wow, I can't. Thank you, Shein. Mr. 9,000 styles every single day. Yes, please let me know about your moves in sustainability. Sorry, like the way that this actually, it drives me to insanity when I think about this greenwashing and the Shein sustainability report. But in the Shein sustainability report, they claim that they reduce their waste through their batch ordering system. Bear in mind, 9,000 new styles a day. One second. I'm getting my calculator out. If they do 200 styles per batch and they add 9,000 styles a day, so 200 times 9,000. No. This means if they do 200 pieces of clothing a batch, 1,800,000, 1.8 million pieces of clothing are produced by Shein every single day. What? But also, Shein, despite the fact that they are worth, it was 100 billion? To be fair, it might be a little bit lower. They created a $50 million, thank you Shein, a $50 million extended producer responsibility fund in order to tackle textiles waste. $15 million of this fund was donated to the OR Foundation, which is a non-profit working at Cantonmento Market in Ghana, where 15 million garments from the global north arrive every single week. I could not believe my eyes when I read this. And young women and girls are paid $3 a day to carry these huge bales of waste garments on their heads. I'm going to repeat myself again. 9,000 new styles a day, 200 products a batch, 1.8 million garments a day. Whenever companies donate money to charity, especially companies like Shein that are literally destroying the planet and exploiting workers. It reminds me a lot of this quote from Friedrich Engels. Am I pronouncing that right? The bourgeoisie is charitable out of self-interest. It gives nothing outright, but makes a bargain with the poor, saying, if I spend this much upon benevolent institutions, I thereby purchase the right not to be troubled any further, and you are bound thereby to stay in your dusky holes and not irritate my tender nerves by exposing your misery. So I honestly don't particularly have a conclusion for this video, because I don't know what the state of fast fashion is going to be in a few years' time. I think one thing to take away from this video is to not fall for the greenwashing bullshit. I know that it can be hard. And again, I don't criticize people who are working class for buying fast fashion every now and again because it's all they can afford. I think it's just really important as consumers to be sort of switched on when something is greenwashing and something isn't. And yeah, I'm really sorry that I don't have a proper conclusion for this video. Usually I have like very put together final thoughts. But this one was a little bit more of like a casual video because I want to make these shorter videos in between my longer ones. But basically just be aware of greenwashing, guys. Be aware of it. But yeah, I just want to thank you all so much for getting this far into the video, and thank you so much for watching my videos, and let me know what your thoughts are. Leave a like, follow my socials, and subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you soon for another video. Bye.